Hey, welcome back to Wander.
Hey,
Welcome back to Wander.Wonders 906. I'm your host, Wanda, and today we are jumping into season 3, episode 5. Our guest today is, oh my gosh, I was going to ask you this before we started. Childress, Sandra Childress.
yep.
She's a mother of four, a creator, a survivor, and someone who has truly rebuilt her life piece by piece through extraordinary resilience. Sandra has navigated some of the heaviest struggles imaginable, surviving domestic violence, homelessness, severe depression, and the constant battle to keep going when things feel impossible. But this conversation isn't just about the hardships, it's about the real, slow, and sometimes messy work of healing. We dive into how she turned to self care, t shirt design, and music to find her strength, and how she continues to show up for herself and for her daughters every day. Hi, Sandra.
Hey.
So I've known Sandra for, you'd say like, it seems like longer, but a month?
Yeah, it's actually about a month today, I think. Or no, today's the 16th. Yeah, it's been a month, like a month. hmm
It
Yep.
feels like I've known her longer. And we met through, I don't know if you guys have seen me kind of talk about the Neon app. We met through there, calling each other, and now she's an admin to our Neon app Talk and Thrive Tribe group, and she is just an incredible friend. She's very motivating, hardworking, and just blows my mind the things that she's told me, and just how she carries herself. Like I just mad kudos. Anyways, welcome to my show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So sometimes I guess it all depends on the person. Sometimes I'll have people tell me like what they want to tell me, their story, and then I'll ask questions, or I just go straight into the questions.
You can go into the questions. That's fine
All
because
right.
it might end up turning into a little story with it. So, yeah.
Zing. All right. You've lived in several states growing up. How do you feel those places have shaped who you became?
Oh, wow, that is a good question. Um, Well, I was born in Washington, D.C. I didn't live there. So right after I was born, we went home to Maryland, and that is where my main home is in Maryland. I would, I guess since I was born, um, we lived in I guess, lower income neighborhood, if you will, possibly. And so I would say possibly there was a little bit of struggle here and there, probably for my parents. Um, though I'm not sure, obviously, because I was just really little. But I guess you could say what started shaping me then and there in Maryland was actually 2 years old. I remember a very traumatic incident, and you can say from there, um, my introduction to trauma was at that age, and unfortunately, it progressed over time, and um, it changed a lot of um, perspective on my parents, but not like in a good way and a bad way, because of course I was two. I wasn't understanding, but I knew there was bad, and I loved them both, but it's like I didn't want to see them both hurting each other. So I can actually tell that story. It's really short, but my mom is still amazed to this day that I can remember that far back. But
I was just gonna
if any
say,
of
I think that it speaks volumes that you were so young and you vividly remember this. Yeah, I think that
yeah,
speaks
I
volumes.
I can I can picture it in my mind. But that's what I was going to say. If you are someone who's experienced, especially by sight, um, a very traumatic experience that jolts your brain, it typically is going to stay with you. Um, so this did, but I remember my mom and my dad were in the basement, going back and forth and just constant yelling and whatever. And I honestly don't know what made me want to go downstairs, but I did. I end up going down to the basement. And when I turned the corner of the basement, they were, across from the steps, right next to like, well, not right next, but our washer and dryer were like behind at that time, and the sink for the, washer and dryer. And then right behind them was this really big, like, um case, probably for like books, because it had like an opening, but then there was like slidey shelves or something, so it probably had like some books in there or whatever. But I'll never forget that while I was sitting there screaming like, stop it, just stop. Like, I was little, so I was saying, stop it, and don't do that, and don't hurt my mom or something, because he ended up pushing my mom into that, case or whatever. And I don't know what was said after that. I just remember that I ran back upstairs after that. And then after that part, though, of me going back upstairs, I don't remember if my mom did come over towards me, to try to comfort, or if she came up behind me after. That's where I kind of don't remember. But all that detail, me going to the basement, watching them, when I get around the corner, I can remember that. And that, was my first experience with trauma. So I guess that's where you can say trauma brain began for me at an early, stage in life. Um, and of course, being little, I guess I had a lot of nervousness and anxiety, growing up. And then, it probably was stemmed to that because it had an effect to my brain. Um, so I was quiet too at times, and um, they end up getting a divorce and things like that. And so, that put some pressure on me as a kid too. So my whole world was changing from two on pretty much by that time. After that incident, I think is sometime when my dad left. They were separated or whatever. Because then, about when I was 3, 4ish years old, I ended up meeting my stepmom a few years later or something like that. So yeah, I was very nervous. I ended up becoming really shy, things like that. And I think so much because when you go through something like that, your brain just automatic goes to a shutdown. So that early, I guess my brain went to a shutdown, because then I probably wasn't as outgoing of a child anymore as prior to seeing that. I don't know though, so you can't really quote me, but I just feel like I remember, there was just a lot of stuff going on in my childhood, and me living in Maryland, there was a lot, because I grew up in that area for about 15 years, same house, everything. So as time progressed, um, things were okay, but then, my mom got into another relationship over time, and I experienced physical abuse, with that. Um, I would get kicked in the behind. My stepdad had wore cowboy boots. So, um, yeah, and even if it wasn't super hard, I was getting kicked in the butt, or grabbed by the back of the neck. And if I wasn't doing dishes fast enough or something, my head would be pushed forward to the sink, or, like, do these dishes type of thing. yeah, just a lot. And I remember coming up with a lot of excuses for things to come out of my room if I was in trouble, just because I felt like, I don't know, I wanted to have some sort of attention from my mom for certain things too. I was very close with my mom because I think I could feel a lot of her energy and what she was feeling inside, and I always took closely to her, like I could just feed off of her, and I always felt like I needed to be her protector even if I was young, like um so but we went through a lot of abuse. It wasn't just me, it was my mom and my little brother too, but um yeah, there was a lot that happened in Maryland. That I can honestly say I am glad that we grew up there, and we had a lot of good times too. Um, there's a lot of memories there. I didn't want to leave, but we did end up getting out of that neighborhood and area, not on our terms. Um, Again, some things happened in my life that took a turn. Once my stepdad and my mom ended up splitting up. So it was very, like years later, someone else was in the picture. And because by that time, my mom didn't jump right into relationships. She always took her time. But especially after the second time, after my dad, and then after my stepdad, she was like she really, really took her time. And so later on, I was probably in I think my middle school years, because when her and my stepdad met, I was in lower elementary, but by the time they end up splitting, I think I was like third grade already still. It wasn't like long after. So like third or fourth grade. And then sometime in middle school, I think seventh grade. Yeah, it was about seventh grade, or what should have been my eighth grade year. I don't know, one of them. But my mom ended up meeting somebody else, and he seemed okay, but after a while he started showing his true colors, and if they would get into it again, I was like very protective over my mom. I got to a point where it was becoming too much that I actually stuck my nose in their business, and I would be like cussing him out and be like, shut the fuck up, cussing, and don't talk to my mom like that. You're an ass or whatever, because I just didn't like what was going on. And anyway, at some point, like any couple, they were working stuff out and things seemed okay. He never put his hands on her that I know of. He definitely never put his hands on us. So it was just more like always verbal yelling, whatever. However, down the line, we end up finding out he was a con artist. Um, and there was a lot. It was just a lot going on. And we end up leaving because there were some other things that happened around in the house and stuff like that, but I feel like it was more so my mom's story, so I don't really want to like bring her part out of it there. But um again, we ended up getting ready to move at some point though, and because he was trying to help us get out of the neighborhood we were in, and he found this really great place in Florida, and he had pictures, and they were like real actual photos, and things like that. And we had a big trailer truck that he ended up getting put in our yard. We were packing up the house, and we actually ended up moving out because at that time we had to, because I guess they must, or my mom probably told the landlord or something like, "Hey, we're leaving," because we lived in a townhouse. Um, And so we ended up at a hotel or a motel, because I forgot there's a difference between the two. We ended up at a motel about 4 or 5 minutes down the road from my house because um, he was saying how it got delayed for something. Something had to be done on the house, or something. I don't remember, but there was a delay in us like to get to this house in Florida. So um and plus, but we had to leave, so we had to go to the motel, and we were there, I would say, for a few days to a week at the one place. And then I actually started venturing out in, while we were there. And I was, um, let's see, seventh grade. I was about, I, I was four. hmm, Well, okay, yeah, I was in seventh grade, but I was supposed to be in eighth grade. I think they ended up trying to hold me back for some reason. I think because now that I'm remembering what happened ahead of time. So I was 14. So within months, I was going to be 15 years old, some months ahead. But I was 14, and my mom, um, my hair was like T-Boz from TLC. If any of y'all know who they are, she was like one of my most faves out of the group. That was one of my most favorite 80s, 90s groups when I was growing up, and she cut my hair like her. I had to learn how to stack it up just like hers. My mom gave me the long pieces and did the actual curved shaving thing in the back. And I was tall and I was curvy, so a lot of people always thought I was older because I was 5'9" since like middle
Damn.
school. So I was even, I was still taller than some of the kids in middle school, except for some boys started sprouting up, of course. But I was tall. I was getting called beanpole and stuff like that. But yeah, I was pretty tall, and so I looked older. I was very developed and things like that. So when we were at this motel, I was getting some attention, and especially one particular guy. I had lied and said I was 18. He believed it because I had the hair, I was in makeup. I did wear makeup and had my hoop earrings. Hoop earrings was always my thing. So I just talked to people, and I met him and we exchanged numbers. And back then there was chat lines on telephones that you could call. Um, so that's kind of how we talked to, I think. But anyway, I was heading down a road of probably destruction. But we ended up leaving there. So I kind of lost touch with the guy, which now looking back on it, it was a blessing in disguise because who knows what all could have happened and what was I thinking type thing. And then we ended up about 20 or 30 more minutes away from there, and we ended up at another motel. And this is when it was back in oh my gosh, this was, yeah, okay. So I can, I'm trying to remember the year. So this was happening the year of, of Tupac's death, 2007, no, not 2007, 1997. Why am I saying 2007? So 1997. This was in 1997. Um, because the motel um, we ended up at the week of Pac's death. So, but it was before Pac's death. So we ended up getting there, and while we were staying there, they had like this they called it the black market because it was really like a flea market thing, but they called it black market just because, it was for anything, all sales of
Right,
all kinds of
right.
products. That's just in that area what they called it. Um, so lo and behold, when I went over there one day, that guy from the old motel happened
Oh,
to be at the black
wow.
market. So we end up reconnecting, and we kind of talked now and then. So, my God, I don't know. I guess I just enjoyed the attention.
Right, right.
Um,
That's valid.
so yeah, so I guess I don't know, but I was shy and stuff. So it was just weird looking back on it. I don't understand how I guess he made it comfortable for me to talk to. But cause I was okay, so I was 14, and I think he was, y'all, he was probably like 20, 21, 22, years old. And so he didn't know that though. He thought I was 18 because I told y'all I've been tall. I looked older. I carried myself, you know, in a manner that why would you think otherwise? So anyway, during that time, during our stay, it was some arguing here and there because we're all in the room, stuck in the room. My
Right.
mom, her boyfriend, me, and my brother, and things were just getting out of hand. They would start arguing. He would run off, leave. One day he came back with an ice cream truck. We're like, where did you get an ice cream truck? He said he ran into some guy that took him on, to try to help him out with some extra money because he knew our situation, and he kept putting off our moving because the moving kept coming up. Like my mom's like, when are we, when are we going
Right.
getting to the house? Because you know, basically, I guess we left up everything, and where are we going? Um, so I guess that's why he got the ice cream truck or whatever. But it's crazy because I don't know if it was the same day or the day before, but when I think it was the same day. But my mom and I didn't know at the time, but we were. It was late at night and everyone was sleeping, and the bathroom lights, the motel room was on, and I don't know why I woke up in the middle of the night, but I did, and I was just had this feeling over me that something is going on, something's off, something is not right. And I was just laying there with my eyes open, like not understanding why I was feeling like that. And all of a sudden, the bathroom light went out. And I guess I made a noise or something because my mom was like, Sandy, because that was my nickname. She was like, did you see that? And I was like, yeah. So that told me she was over there in the other bed awake too. And the light ended up coming back on. And she was like, oh my God. She was like, I wonder what that was. I'm like, I don't know. But it was weird because it just like I wake up feeling off and all that, and then all of a sudden that goes off, but then my mom's up too, just laying there. So we had this same kind of experience, I guess, because she was saying she was just laying there like awake. Well, the next morning when we woke up and turned on the news, that's when we learned that late at night, Tupac Shakur had been shot and killed.
Wow.
So I got chills because I'm like, what a damn coincidence. We were up around that time, and that's when the fucking bathroom light went off and came on. And he was one of my favorite rappers. But and what does that have to do with anything? I honestly I don't know, but it's just part of
Part
the
of my
story. Anyway,
story.
it is. So anyway, that morning is when more things shifted though, because I think they had got into their last argument for that time ever. My mom had a newspaper. She ended up showing me that he was wanted because he was a con artist and all this stuff. And I'm like, so we started being freaked out, and we didn't know, I guess she didn't know how to get out of it. Cause then my mom realized like, there is no house. Like there is nothing. And,
Damn. To be in your mom's shoes
uh,
and like that sense of like fuck, like dread, like damn.
yeah. And now that I remember too, way back before we did end up leaving, when they would get into an argument here and there, my mom would pack us up with some things, and we would end up leaving the house and try to get into a shelter, just so she could get away, we could get away from everything going on. And there were times we did end up sleeping in the car because we couldn't get in a shelter, or we would leave the shelter and just go ahead and go back home. But so that's where I kind of started experiencing homelessness a little bit. But anyway, back fast forward that day, that Pac was shot and killed, and it was announced and all over the place was the day my dad ended up. Um, I guess he was picking us up or something already, but we didn't end up going straight to his house. He ended up taking me to my grandmother's house, which we didn't know was my grandmother's house. It was about 15 minutes down the road. And when we got there, I asked him, like, where are we at? Like, whose
Right.
house is this? And he was like, you'll see in a minute. And so when we went up to the door, excuse me, it ended up being my grandma. And I like got so teary eyed, and she did too, because why that was such a significant moment, because when my mom had got together with a con artist dude, he practically split our family and made my mom believe that, a bunch of stuff. So there was no contact. I missed my auntie's wedding, all kinds of stuff because there was no more contact. It was, it was awful for some years. And so we didn't even know she lived there. So the motel we ended up being at was closer to my grandma. And we had no idea she even moved to that area, which was called Mechanicsville, Maryland. So that was a whole different city. Um, and it was just like, what the heck? Like, God knew, because we went from our house being 20 minutes away, and the motel around there, to getting further out 20, 30 minutes away from our house. But for what, why that motel? And then my dad takes us to my grandma's, which is 15 minutes down the road. Like, that cannot be that. For me, I feel like that was God. That was not a coincidence. It was like we were meant to be in that area, and we were meant to be he found my grandma. So after that, we went back to the motel. My dad told my mom, I told my mom, we packed our shit, we hid it out of there. After that, my mom seen something happen to the guy or whatever, and then after that, we didn't hear nothing about it again. So he must have ran or something. But so then we moved to my grandma's, and so we were supposed to be there until we could find something again, my mom get back on her feet and get her job back or get a job, one of the two. I don't remember. Um, and during that time, I guess, with her and my stepdad being just completely separated, and with everything she went through, and I think what he ended up hearing, you know, what she had gone through, because at this point, I forgot to mention, I did have a baby sister. My stepdad and my mom had a daughter together, so that's my sister. So my sister was with us too the whole time. She was about, she's 38 right now, I think. So I don't honestly remember how old she was, but she was smaller than me, but we were close. But she oh my god, I lost my train of thought. But anyway, I ended up finding out that they were talking again, because my mom told me, her and my stepdad were talking again, and I kind of was like,
What the fuck?
like in my mind, I'm like, okay, or whatever. I don't remember everything, but I do remember her asking me, how did I feel about it or whatever. And I think I did respond like, I don't like it. I don't want to like live with him or something. And then, I don't know if it was that day or at some point and another time that she was saying that, we were probably going to be moving back in, we were going to move and have a place with my stepdad and things like that. And I was like, no, I don't want to. And I was upset. And for me, I was nervous and scared, because I'm like, I don't want to go back to that. I don't want to. go through anything else. And so I ended up calling my dad and telling my dad, and I think maybe him and my mom probably argued about it. Maybe, I don't know the phone conversations. I know my mom was pretty hurt when I ended up telling her I didn't want to go. I want to go live with my dad, and I understand because she's my mom. She birthed me, and I know as a mom how it is to not have your children with you because I experienced that, which is a whole other story later in life. But um, I didn't want to leave her. I was close to her. I felt like I needed to be with her. Like I said, I just felt like her protector all the time. And I did my, I ended up leaving. My mom bravely was letting me go. I know deep down inside she did not want to agree with me at all whatsoever. I hugged her so tight, and we started crying, and I love my dad. I do. And I loved my dad back then. I just I didn't want to leave my mom. I just felt like I
Of
didn't have a
course.
choice.
Of course.
And so at I was about to be 15 eventually, within the next month or so, because by the time we left uh, for my grandma's, it was September, October, November, December. Yep, because I was there for Christmas, January. So I think it was like February, January, February when I ended up moving in with my dad. And it was nerve-wracking because then I was alone. I didn't have my sister anymore either, and
Yeah.
that killed me too. Because when my mom was pregnant with her, I will never forget how hard one night I got up out of my bed and I kneeled down and was looking out my window. And then I was cry praying to God to please give my mommy a baby sister. Like, give me a baby sister. And it happened for me. So I took that as a sign, like, oh my God, he gave me my sister. So she's always been important to me, even to this day. Because that, I don't know, it just meant a lot. Like, I had an answered prayer because my
Right.
mom didn't know at the time either what she was having, and I don't know why I wanted a sister, and I cried so bad, like praying. It wasn't like, oh, I want a sister, like whiny. No, it was like a faithful prayer, crying like, God, please, whatever you do, let my mom have my baby sister. Please, I want a sister. I need a sister. Like, I don't know. So yeah, when I left, I was hurt and I was scared for my brother too, because my sister didn't experience what we did, and I don't know if it's because we were the stepchildren and not his blood children, why things happened to us. But anyway, I ended up moving in with my dad, and it was not easy mentally. There's probably a lot of stuff I've left out, but this is a good, I mean, it's lengthy already, but um and things, it was hard. It was mentally hard for me. My dad had to go to the school and convince them that I was eighth grade ready, because when I lived with my grandma, because we were moving so much during the months of school and stuff like that, they felt I was behind. That's why I was still in seventh grade, because they were like, um, she's not, we don't think she's ready or whatever. But so I was in seventh grade. So that's where I got seventh grade from. Because I forgot when we were moving, it was summertime and then September hit. I was not in school yet. So I got registered to school there and still was in seventh grade. But my dad was like, is there a way you guys can move her to eighth grade? This is what happened. Gave the school all the details, and they went ahead and gave me that shot, to see where I would be at, because I was supposed to be there. So and I was okay. I just didn't really fit in though. because here I am coming in to this school that went from 6th to 12th grade, and everybody was cliquey already. You know, they left elementary and started there all together. And here I come in the way I was looking, because when I moved in, oh my God, this was true. So when I moved in with my dad and I started school too, before I started school, my stepmom made me get my nails changed from what I had. Because when I was living with my grandma, my auntie took me out in October to go get my nails done, just probably, to help me through things. And I had black fingernails with white skulls on them for Halloween. So I still had them on. Um, and, I had them on for a long time. And my stepmom, when I moved in, made me get my nails done to pink. And I'm like, why can't I just have what I like? I don't know. I just wanted to be me. And then the stupid teenage boy at this next door to us, he was in the high school part, but he told my dad and my stepmom that they needed to watch over me and I needed to be careful because with the way my hair was, that I would be considered like part of the skinhead group, and that's not good because they're like bad. Like skinheads are normally typically racial and stuff, racist and stuff like that. So he was like, I wouldn't want to see your daughter end up something happen to her because if they mistake her because her head is shaved in the back and stuff, and they were like, we got to get something done with your hair, and I'm like, what? So they made me cut my long bangs off, and then it looked like I had this boy cut, and that I had to let the hair grow back here. So I was so embarrassed because I'm like, I had people, back then it wasn't a thing where it was fully out yet for people to be gay or lesbian or whatever, but I was being called that. They were like, "Oh my God, are you lesbian?" And I'm like, "No." And they're like, "Why you got your hair like that?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, what are they talking about?" So, I got bullied a lot too as a kid growing up in school. So, I mean, I experienced that all throughout my life. Um, but whatever. So yeah, that got to me. But yeah, I started picking up bad habits when I started hanging out with some friends there. I started smoking cigarettes, and I ended up having people buy me a pack. And I was still in touch with that guy from Maryland because when I moved in with my dad lived in Virginia, so we were an hour away from my mom. So that's how I ended up in Virginia. I lived in Virginia for not a year, but from the time I moved in until late in the summer. But I ended up keeping in touch with that guy, and I ended up telling him where I lived, and he drove from Maryland to
Oh,
Virginia,
wow.
and I met him outside, and we just talked and stuff. But then we talked a lot on the phone, and I remember one time I called his house. I think it was his mother, and she was like, "It's that girl that keeps calling here." She said, um, she was like, "I don't know why she keeps calling here." And then she was like, "You need to leave my son alone, little girl," or something. And I'm like, because moms can tell probably from voice too. So she probably was like, "Who is this little kid? This little girl or whatever calling my grown ass son?" But we ended up talking on the phone, and then eventually at some point, my dad was like, "Now I know why you like red Fieros." Because I kept telling him out of nowhere, like, when I get a car, I want a red Fiero. And I think it was like a 1995 Fiero or something like that. And I'm like, why? He was like, have you been talking to a man that drives a red Fiero? And I was like, no. And of course, I probably was turning red. And my stepmom and him kind of ganged up on me and they were like, well, we know everything and you need to stop talking to him. We've already told him how old you are. And he said that you lied to him and you could have got him in so much trouble, all this and that. And I felt so stupid. But they were like, you don't know what you were doing. What could have happened? Like, what were you thinking? And I'm like, I don't know, you know? So yeah, it's a lot. And then so after my eighth grade year, anyway, I ended up in Florida. And once I got to Florida, and started school there, things started to progress for the better at the time.
Sorry, I glitched out.
Um, oh, it's okay. Could you still hear or no?
No, the
Okay.
last thing I heard was your parents told him that you lied, and I think that was the last thing.
Okay. So, yeah, pretty much I was caught. And it was done. They called him. They told him I lied and all that or whatever. So, anyway, moving on. So later on, after my eighth grade year, we pretty much ended up packing up and moving to Florida. But before it was Florida, they told me we were going to be moving and we had a choice because once I was going to be out of middle school, they wanted to move and just go to a different area, start over. And they were like, so you have two choices we're thinking about. And I'm like, what? And they were like, so we're either moving to Australia,
Wow,
Florida. And
fam.
I was like, no, I don't want to go to Australia, and I'm paraphrasing myself because I'm not exactly quite sure what I said, but I knew I was like, no, I don't want to go to Australia.
Australia.
And and I said, and they were like, why? And I said, do they even have black people there? Do they have rap music? Like, do they have, and they were like kind of cracking up, I guess, because I was treating it like, I think, like it was just something else, I think. And I just know I was making a big deal of it. And I said, and I don't want to be walking around talking about some good day, mate, and all this stuff, picking up their lingo. Like, I was like, I don't want to go to Australia. And in my mind, too, I was thinking about how I was already an hour away from my mom, and going to Australia would have been like a huge, huge step. I already felt weird being an hour away, but I felt better knowing that, hey, it's only an hour drive, whatever. But then, so anyway, they said, fine, we can go to Florida. That's fine. And my stepmom started looking at houses. During that time, I said, could we please, if we move to Florida, it has to be a new house that no one lived in. Like, it has to be a fresh, brand new house that was just built. So my stepmom found a um, housing development that was actually still developing houses in this area of Florida called Ocoee, which is a small city outside of Orlando. And I think it's still considered a small city because not a lot of people still know about it. It was fairly new still when I got there, probably by a few years. But now people should know about it because I mean, if it was by a few years when I was 15 years old, come on, people, I'm 44 right now. So but it was called Ocoee, Ocoee. Um, and she, they got a house built just for me because I had a fear of living in a house where somebody died. Like, I didn't want to deal with hauntings or like I was really terrified of them things. And I think it's because I would sneak when I was younger on the steps and see my mom in the living room watching Poltergeist and all these things. And I would be sitting there watching it. So I think I had built a lot of fear into myself with that. So yeah, Florida, those were my those were my best years there. We lived in a really great neighborhood, super safe. My stepmom purposely got us in an area where she looked at all the like demographics of everything. Um, how many white people compared to black people, how many Hispanics, Asians. She got us in an area where things were pretty much equal all around instead of one more than the other, things like that. So it would be a good mix. My high school was it was a great mix of people. Um, it was so fun. I actually came out of my shell when I started high school because I'm like, this is a fresh start. I don't want to be called Sandy anymore. I want to be called Sandra or Sandra. And I even went and got clothes that I've never worn before because in my mind, they didn't know how I dressed. So if I dress like this, they're going to think it was always like that.
Right,
I was
a new
wearing
start, a
skirts.
new start.
Yeah, I was wearing skirts and like, I don't know. I was really just I still had a lot of anxiety and nervousness because I would always be red and hot and things. But as time went on, like I think my confidence grew because then by 10th grade year, I was just so bubbly and I fit in with everybody. I wasn't popular, but I wasn't on the bottom either. I was like in between with everybody. I fit in also more like with the Hispanic people. A lot of people thought I was Hispanic, but I'm not. I'm white. I'm Italian, but we're considered white by society, things like that. And because, we are off of the Italian branch from the Latin branch and things. So, I mean, that's why Italian exists. They're pretty similar. Spanish and Italian are pretty close in speaking. So, I was kind of confused on that growing up because I'm like, well, if we're white, wouldn't it be called a white language instead of Italian? Like, I don't know. It's just weird. But yeah, I fit in with everybody and I loved it. And I have so many pictures from back then. Like, you could see such a night and day difference from photos when I lived in Maryland to when I got to Florida. Florida was, um, like, people have asked me if you could choose a happy place, where would you go? Florida
Oh,
was my happy place. Um, that really was the first time I could have my childhood for myself. I didn't have to worry about anything. Um, I didn't have to help, with my brother or sister a lot, which my mom didn't put things on me like that on purpose. It just, if she had to work, of course, I was home with my siblings. So, but I think from childhood to teenagehood, it's such a night and day difference. And not that my mom did anything wrong,
right.
because we had so many good times too. And that's why I never wanted to leave her either. I wanted to be there. She taught me a lot, whether she feels like she didn't or not. I learned a lot from her. And through the things she went through, I had learned a lot too. But some things I think I learned it, but didn't quite adapt to what it meant, um, and how much it did affect me until, you know, when I started developing intimate relationships with, once I started having a boyfriend and things like that. But my mom did a good job trying to navigate being a single mom and then going through things that she went through in between when she would be a single mom. And she always would come to our rescue, always fight for us for things or something too. Um, she did a lot, and I think that's probably where I got a lot of my strength from. But I think that's where I get the whole concept of um love too, because my mom was a loving person. That I think that was a weakness, especially when it came to a relationship, because you know when you love someone and they're doing things to you, it alters your brain chemically too, and
You
it's
lose
not always
yourself.
easy to leave.
You start
Yeah,
losing
you,
yourself.
you and you're codependent too, even though you don't realize. And so and I've been through that. So now I that's why I say I can understand what my mom was going through, that maybe she didn't like it and want to deal with it. She just didn't really know how to leave or safely leave, I don't know. But yeah, so Florida, all my high school years, I it was there was really nothing, there was really nothing that really happened then. It was all pretty good, except I loved my mom and I had so many opportunities. I could have seen my mom whenever I wanted, and unfortunately, I let my teenage life get in the way of that because I went to see mom 2 times. That's it, by plane, um as a teenager. And
I think as a parent though, you kind of know when your kids are they're teenagers. It's kind of like a I don't know, rite of passage that they're going through
yeah,
the teenage years.
yeah, and I think she knew it, but I know she was missing me probably
Oh,
too,
of
because there
course.
are a lot of nights where I was crying a lot. Like I didn't have like okay, when I say when I was in Florida all them years, I didn't have to really deal or go through anything. I was, but it wasn't like physical abuse, violence, all the traumatic, whatever stuff that I had got. But I was dealing with internal, my depression. I had depression. Of course, with everything I was going through, I was a depressed kid because I was hurting. I was in pain. I was reaching out to older men. Those are signs of a deep mental type of depression. And um, so I was struggling with depression. And even as a teenager, I would cry a lot, missing my mom. I'd be in my bed sometimes thinking about her, wishing I could be with her. And sometimes I'd be praying. And then I'd like be rocking myself in the bed, trying to just comfort myself. And like, I'd be holding myself in a position too and just be like, Mom, I really love you. I miss you. And like, as if I'm picturing her holding me to kind of give myself comfort and knowing that if I was laying on her shoulder right now, this is what she would be doing, like consoling. And I'd fall asleep crying, but then it'd be like the next day I'd get up as if nothing happened, go to school,
Right.
get in with my friends. It's kind of like I knew I had the opportunity to see my mom, and it's almost like I got so busy making friends and then just having a
Being a
good time.
teenager.
Just I was in Florida too, like we were broke, but there was always something to do. The beach all the time, the neighborhood pools, the um uh rollerblading, like just I was doing all these things, and it just felt nice to finally get into with a good group of kids. Like um I had white friends, black friends, and Hispanics compared to when I was growing up. I had majority black friends because of where I grew up. And I did have a few white friends here and there, but I never really was able to go to their house. And I think maybe it's because their parents saw how maybe I was, my demeanor, how I talk, maybe things like that. Um, because my dad's mom would say, "Why you always talk like a little black girl?" Or "Why you always wear your hair like a little black girl?" And I'm like, oh my God, whatever. Like, what is black? How can you talk black? You know? But they're the older people back then, of course. But it was just like I've always been more comfortable around black people because that's just how I grew up. But then when I moved to Florida and I seen how so much I don't know how it is now, but I had so many people tell me, oh, when you go down there, it's gonna be so laid back. It's gonna be a whole different environment than living up north. And It's going to be a little fast paced, but it's going to be a change. And it was like, I love that I actually had white friends that liked me for who I was. They didn't judge me. Like, I was able to go over their house, and I was friends with so many people. So, it felt good to be able to just mix in with everybody and not feel like I was being judged either by however I was.
Right.
And so it was it was definitely fun. And we lived, when some people found out where I lived at, they're like, "Oh my God, you live there? Oh, your family must be rich." And I'm like, "No." I'm like, "We don't live in a mansion." And they're like, "Them houses are nice enough." And I was like, "Well, I don't know, because I didn't know how much my stepmom made or my dad. So I just knew my stepmom was in the medical field, but that doesn't mean that I was in her pockets and I knew how much
Right.
she was making and things like that." I just knew we lived in a nice neighborhood and there was a mix of people. So that's what I knew. And then as I was having people come to me, they're like, "You don't know where you live at?" And I'm like, "No." They were like, "Dude, don't you know you have like some basketball players and shit that lives in your neighborhood?" And I'm like, "No." And then there's one boy who always was like being weird and like picked on me for no reason, like being stupid funny though. Um, his dad was at this time a retired Orlando Magic basketball player named Otis Smith. So I went to high school with his son, which was like a big head. He he thought he was his dad. Like, he was so big headed. And I'm like, "You act like you got money. That's your daddy. Like, come on." And then 5 minutes from our neighborhood was Windermere, which is where the mansions were. But I didn't know that yet. It was only my first few months of high school. And so that's where, like, back in my times with people, Backstreet Boys lived, NSYNC lived, Wesley Snipes had a house there, a bunch of, big top celebrities. What's his name? That played golf. Tiger
Tiger
Woods
Woods.
lived there. Yeah, had a house there. So all these people, they can have houses anywhere, but a lot of these people live there. And I'm like, "Oh, wow, this is so cool." Like, and we would drive past it, and the gates were always locked, of course. But one day they happened to be open, and my dad drove us through there. And I'm like, "Oh my God, this is so cool." And like, it was so fun. And then I would hear stories from my stepmom, and because the first few months there and the first year there, it's like so exciting to hear about all this stuff going on. My stepmom came home and she was like, "You'll never believe who I ran into at the gas station by the store." And I'm like, "Who?" She was like, "Well," she was like, "he had a really nice car too, and it was a red Corvette." And she was like, "I ran into Wesley Snipes." I'm like, "What did you say?" And she was like, "Nothing. I said, 'Hey, how are you?'" And we had a conversation, and I'm like, "Okay." She was like, "They're just normal people." And I'm like, "I know, but like, people don't get to see celebrities like that." So, like, and then she's had stories where she's run into some of the Backstreet Boy members and stuff, and I'm like, "And what did you do?" She was like, "Nothing." And so I'm like, "You could have had them sign like $1 or something for me or whatever." Like, I
Right.
was flipping out. I was just like, "How come I'm not running into anybody?" But as time went on, I did end up running into people, and I actually got to meet some celebrities in person because we lived 15, 20 minutes from Disney and things like that. Disney World was my first job, because I started
Oh,
there.
no fucking way, dude.
Yeah, I
Jealous.
worked at Disney World. I
Peanut
had
butter
worked
and
at a
jelly.
place called I had worked at a place. I don't know if they still have it now, but it was called Backlot Express, and it was a fast food restaurant that would be open and available to anyone, but it was pretty much, they had a this is for some old school.
Ruh-roh.
I don't know. I don't know how calls are coming through. I have my do not disturb on.
I was like, where's she?
Ugh. Oh my gosh, this is irritating. But anyway, yeah, I worked at Backlot Express, which led off of a live show of Indiana Jones.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, they would have him swinging off the rock, the or swinging off the thing, the fire coming, the big old rock starts to roll down.
What?
The, yeah, it was really neat. And then so after the show, the audience would get let out into the restaurant, and I only worked there for 3 months though because for a teenager, and I I worked 2 days, Saturdays and Sundays every week because I was in school, but I worked 12-hour shifts. So I was working 24 hours
Holy.
in 2 days, and it was a lot. And I worked in the kitchen, and we had no windows. So I was becoming depressed, like when I would be there, because I would go in when the sun was up and I'd be leaving when the sun was down. So it was very like depressing. I didn't get to see the sun, and then I'd be right back at school. So it made me feel like I just couldn't do it anymore. I didn't like that I was stuck in the kitchen. But yeah, it was my first job, and what was the best thing about it is when you work at Disney, they give you a yearly pass with a few blackout dates in it, but you and up to 5 friends can go year round to the parks.
Damn.
So I utilized it a few times, and it was fun. It definitely was fun. Um, and I hated that I had to let it go, but I did. So yeah, those were the best years. And then of course my senior year is when I got pregnant, and I didn't get to finish my senior year. So I kind of messed up on that one because I used to hate when people would be dropouts. I would feel so bad and like, man, people really waste their whole life going to school and then wait till the last minute to drop out. That's kind of dumb. And then I didn't mean to drop out though. I was going to school and I was constantly sick, but I didn't know why. And then it got to the point where I couldn't do it anymore. By this time, I left um, my dad and stepmom. At this point, I was on my own, being hard headed. So they told me that if I wanted to leave, can't follow the rules, all this and that. At some point, once I turned 18, what they told me this, because I started just wanting to be independent. And I had met someone that actually lived in Illinois, and he ended up moving to Florida to be with me.
Damn.
And that's a we met through we weren't even in person. We met each other through the Boys to Men fan club newsletter because in the
Aw.
yep, because the back of it every month when the issue comes out, it gives you like a page with a few like pen pals. You can start writing other Boys to Men fans. And so that's who I met, and that's who I got pregnant by. And yeah, I unenrolled myself at my high school to transfer to another high school that was closer to where we were at the time, living with one of my friends because we ended up not being able to get a place of our own like we thought. And that's when more shit started going down the hill for my life. And yeah, it was a lot.
I don't know. I think that's the common theme here is it was a lot. It was a lot. It sounds like a lot.
There is so much more, but
Do
I
you
don't
want to
know if
keep
you
going or
are.
do you want to touch do you want to keep going or do you want to touch on these questions? Do you got to go? What's
I
up?
mean, we can touch on some other questions, and then if later on people are wanting to know like, well, what happened, once you got pregnant and things, we can do another part 2 on all that, the rest of that part of life of things.
Right,
But
right.
yeah, we can definitely do that if other people want to hear, cuz That's when things start to kick in a notch when it comes to narcissism, manipulation, all these really, that's when life itself for me really took a toll. So y'all can stay tuned for part two then on all that
I
if you
definitely
want to know
think
because
I definitely
it's
think part
gonna,
2.
yeah, because it's gonna be, that's when it's gonna be really emotional
Okay.
and crazy. Yep.
One thing I didn't hear you really mention on that I've heard you talk about before is, well, you did mention music. You mentioned artists like Tupac and TLC.
Oh yeah.
But when did you realize music was more than just entertainment for you? But like, whoa, my screen just blacked out. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hold on, something's happening. Come on. We might have to be continued. I don't know what's going on.
Oh snap.
Oh, oh, something's happening. That was really weird. It just blacked out. All right. Anyways, uh, so when
I
did you
heard
realize?
somebody say woo.
No, I'm telling you, all night, all night.
It's okay. It's okay. That's all I heard this whole time though. So that, but anyway,
When
the
did you
music.
first realize music was more like therapy for you?
Back in Maryland, I grew up with music. My mom played all kinds of music: rap, R&B, country, rock, um, hard rock, oldies, classical. Um, I don't know what category you would put. Oh my God, what is that group? Oh my God, I only know the song. Oh, so the group. I don't know what category you would put them in, but my mom used to listen to Enigma, which is not, which is more like a spiritual wave of music, as an Indian, like native Indian type
Okay.
sound. My favorite song from them, I'm getting chills because this was one of my songs that carried through a lot, and I just felt so connected to what it was saying. So if somebody wants to look it up so you can hear it, if you're someone who can be in tune with any type of music, because for me, I've always paid attention to lyrics. Lyrics is a biggie. And me being young, knowing the difference between reality and entertainment was blown out of this world by people because I didn't have to try to be out in the streets, especially where I live, doing all the things that women or rappers or even metalheads, would represent or anything like that. I knew the difference. But lyrics was a big thing. Certain songs I just knew were stupid, fun, crazy, whatever. But then I knew some songs were like, this is life. Like, this is the struggle. This is, some things. So, but it was called so it's Enigma. It was called Return to Innocence. Um, that song, uh, when my mom played it for the first time one day, it just hit me, and I knew like, oh my God, I gotta have that on one of my tapes because back then we had cassette tapes where you could record songs and
Yes.
things.
Yes.
So I had made my own tapes with some of my mom's stuff. She had records, um, because she had a record player too. So we had a record player, tape player. My mom even had some A tracks that she had from when she was growing up, which is so weird. But yeah, music was definitely a big thing for me. It still is something for me, but it's not as significant as it was um after my two oldest girls' father and I split. He ruined a lot of it for me, but so it turned into specific artists. specific songs, and not, and a lot of it is not even um things that I grew up with. Some is, but it's kind of like I started really just gearing more towards certain things that would just catch me, or I don't know. But definitely when I was younger, music was a huge deal. I did want to become a singer when I grew up. I
I
was
was
in
gonna say,
choir.
what happens inside you, like emotionally, when you sing?
Um, Honestly, since since I started having kids, my voice obviously isn't the same as how it used to be, because when you're singing it and you're in choir and things, it's constant. Your vocal cords are exercised all the time. And I used to sing all the time in my room. Um, that was something I think that got me out of a lot of my stress and struggles and took me to a whole different place too. Like I was constantly singing. There was times I would be trying to record myself singing too and things like that. And dancing, singing and dancing in my room was like always, always. I think that's probably why I maintained my weight from middle school all the way through high school until I was pregnant of 173. Like, no matter how much I ate, whatever, from middle all the way through high school up until I got pregnant, I was 173. I never gained, I didn't lose. I was just probably because of all that. I don't know. But yeah, I love music now, but it wouldn't be like a lot of the same music that I used to, I
Right.
guess. It shifted, and yeah, it has shifted, but I do like music, and if it's something that I can hear something out of, I'm more so gonna take to that better than something that's just made out of somebody's ass.
Right, right.
Pretty much. Like, I need to hear a story. I need to hear yeah, of course,
Substance.
of course I do like a lot of fun songs too. Like, but um I don't like, there was a lot of music growing up too, like Tupac even made, or Biggie, or some stuff is just like, yeah, I don't really like that, because that's bitch this and okay, that was just how they expressed themselves and how it was because of whatever. But sometimes I just was like, yeah, this ain't for me. But some songs I would listen to it because it just depended on my mood. But those weren't my it things. It would have to be other stuff. But nowadays, see, and a lot of stuff got taken from me. So it's like, because I lost a lot of music, I just kind of had given up on my collection, and more so because it was a sentimental value to the music that I had. Because, as us growing up as teenagers, it went from cassette to CDs. So, over time, like when I was in middle school, CDs started coming out, and my mom bought me my first Bone Thugs and Harmony. Oh my God, you could not stop me from listening to them. I listen to them still to this day. Oh my God, I love Bone Thugs and Harmony. She bought me their first CD. She got me my first Tupac. She got me my first R. Kelly. Um, just a bunch of CDs. I had a bunch of tapes before that too. I had, oh my gosh, I had Paula Abdul. I had Billy Ray Cyrus. I had MC Hammer. Like, I had, oh my God, I think they were called Deuce, and the song was called Daisy Dukes. Oh my God, it was so funny. Oh my God, the 80s and 90s, y'all. But I mean, I had so many things my mom had bought me, and then like My grandma over time. Oh my God, New Kids on the Block. I was absolutely in love with them. Joey and Donnie were like my faves. Um, oh my God. I never got to go to a concert. That is a damn shame. But yeah, like Michael Jackson, of course. That I've always liked Michael Jackson. My mom was a big fan of him too. There was some lady named Shannon back in the day. I know a lot of people watch, like if they see this too, like they're gonna be like, "What?" Because it might be, you might get a lot of a young following. Who knows? But I had a lot, and then as a teenager, of course, I had more things coming in. I had some Metallica singles. I had oh my gosh, I had Pearl Jam. I had White Snake, because these are some heavy metal peoples, okay? What else? Guns N' Roses. Did I say that? No, I don't think I did. Guns N' Roses. I love them. They're oh my God, they were good. Um,
Do you know who Atmosphere is?
no, I don't think I probably know of some, like some stuff as time went on. I had took a liking to certain things, but I started not paying attention to artists. So there's songs I've heard by people that I liked, but I never knew who they were. So that sounds familiar, but I don't know if I've ever heard anything, um, or if I ever looked them up myself. My brother, now I would listen to it, but I didn't listen to it because it was my brother's thing when because me and my brother didn't get to grow up, but when I visited the couple times, he was blasting his insane clown posse and
Oh, hell
things
yeah.
like that. And I didn't really listen to them too much. I don't know. I don't know why I didn't really give them a chance. I don't know. It was something. I don't know.
They're an
Maybe it's just
acquired
because he
taste.
liked them.
They're an acquired
But
taste.
yeah, and then but I love like Linkin Park and um oh my God,
Good
what is that?
Charlotte.
Kid Rock and what's the other dude? Fred Durst. What the fuck was he in? My God, dude. I cannot believe this. But anyway, yeah, I like a combination of things. I love Shania Twain. Mariah Carey is like my hands down fave R&B since elementary. And yeah, she can be bitchy. I don't care. I know she has a mood. She whatever, but she's been through hella shit. So I think a lot of it is her coding of protection. Like she had enough, and you just not gonna fuck with me. I'm doing me type shit. Like I get it. I get it. And sometimes just like regular humans, she might not mean a lot, and they deal with things behind closed doors too. So, but I love her because she's always that's one thing with me. I love people that can keep it real and raw and just be themselves even if people don't like them. Like I don't know, certain people like that I can really connect with. There's some people that are like that and I'm just like, okay, whatever. But it's just some people how do I explain it? Some people overly do it so much to almost like they're doing it attentively for the attention, not for like realism, not for to be real and connect. I don't know how to make that
They
to make
put
sense.
they put on a facade.
Yeah, like okay, we understand you. Okay, don't you ain't got to be so over the top type with it. I don't know. I can't explain it, but I do like it when people are real and raw and they can do it in a manner that's not
In your
chubby
face and
either.
obnoxious.
Yeah, and then make you feel like chubby, like oh, you got to do it this way, and then this is how, like, no. Like, when Mariah even tells some of her heartbreak stuff or whatever, she does it with such class, and, she does have attitude in certain ways, but she'll even state, well, that's me, but other people have their own prerogative type thing, or whatever. She's not gonna be, I don't know. But she was one of my hand down fave. Her, Whitney Houston, TLC, SWV. Whew, gosh, there was a lot. But not to fast forward over everything, but where my music ended was a lot of the stuff like I had from my mom and a few things from like my grandma and even stuff my dad had sent me when I was living in Maryland. Got taken, the whole CD case filled with over 200 some CDs got taken away from me by my two oldest girls' father at some point, and I was I was devastated because I was here in Wisconsin by that point and away from family. So like when we didn't work out and he left, anything of sentimental value is all I had of them being with me. So when he came back around because I needed some help with something, he was actually for some reason nice about doing it, and he ended up taking some things, including my booklet of CDs, and it hurt me to no end that I couldn't get them back. I was screaming, crying, and ranting and raving at the truck door for this girl he had bought with him, which was the girlfriend at the time, to please give me my CDs. And she had them in her lap. I said, please, you don't understand. Like, I was crying my eyes out. Please give me my CDs. My mom gave me some. Those are from like, I was trying to beg and plead, and she was like, no, I can't. He said they're his. Like, why would I be hard heartedly crying and
Right.
begging you at your window as an adult for them and not even caring it's music? It's because they were sentimental, like they mean something to me. And she just wouldn't. And I was so upset. I was so livid. And he said, that's what you get for allowing a lot of my stuff to get taken. He was like, how does it feel? And I said, first of all, the storage in the basement wasn't my fault that somebody broke into it and took it. It was locked up. What was I supposed to do? You were supposed to watch it better. Fucking serious. So yeah, that was part of the mental emotional abuse right there. Uh, so I was in such a hurt phase of it. I said, you know what? There's no way for me to get it back now. And I just had gave up on even trying to collect music at that point. Every now and then I might buy something, but I nothing was a big deal to me anymore. Like I just grew like my heart kind of grew cold to like I would listen to music, but it didn't feel the exact same. It just took whatever was in me out. I enjoyed it. I still danced and stuff, but it wasn't the exact same for some reason.
Right.
But yeah, but nowadays, I mean, I'm getting back there, but I've more so started finding my own journey of interest of songs, still in some same categories, but more so I've just realized over time how the industry is, and I just don't like a lot of stuff that goes on in the industry. And I actually thank God that I was stopped on several occasions from going to audition to anything when I lived in Florida as a teenager because I wanted it so badly. And every time I would try to go to an audition and drive myself, something always like told me, no, turn around. And I keep going against it because I was having anxiety. But I was thinking, no, it's just because I'm nervous. But then I'd be like, oh, fine. And you only do that when you actually feel like somebody's talking to you. And
Right.
little for my beliefs, now I know for me that it was God's voice. You know, back then I just knew voice, something's telling me not to go and my conscience. So it was like I would always turn around and I'd end up just at my friend's house. But I'm so glad it happened because I honestly don't know how I would have turned out. There's
Right.
so many people that get drugged out, strung out, waste their time, and then you're just kicked the fuck out of the industry, and then you're on the street, and um, then the whole Illuminati thing. Yeah, that wouldn't have worked for me
Girl,
at all
you're
because,
trailing off. You're trailing off. Illuminati,
mm-mm,
she says.
girl, that's because I started just picking up young, like just some things. So I just kind of, as I got older, like I started being more supportive of people in different areas who do their own music, who's trying to build, who have already built and are successful off of doing their own thing. They didn't have to answer to anyone in the industry. They can do what they want. They're their own boss. They're their own management. They're their own payrollee. Like they do it all themselves, and they showed how it can be done.
Have you listened to
And
Tom McDonald at all?
no, I don't
Oh.
know who that is, to be honest.
He's I'm pretty sure he's independent and like his music is very I don't listen to a lot of it, but my daughter's dad got me onto it and some of it's pretty powerful. Might just
You can
slap
probably,
some slap some in the motivation chat.
yeah, I was gonna say you can probably just send some because I'm always in for listening to things just to find other stuff that's not like too much out. I don't know why I just feel like once like when celebrities come out with their stuff, it's blown up and blah blah blah, but it's like you're I don't know. I just feel like independents are putting so much more of their heart, soul, blood, sweat, and tears into it. Like they just are so much more genuine about things, and they're so much more lenient with sharing their life, and they don't have to worry about being so hush hush, and they are able to be real, and they don't have to lead us into this whole fake ass life. They can tell us for real, like, this is what it is, this is what we do. I don't got money like this, but this is, all this type of stuff. They make it real, they make it seem reachable, for people who are going after it, in a way that you don't have to make so many sacrifices of yourself or your life to get there, like in other forms, but you just have to sacrifice your own things, like your own time, your own efforts. You don't have
Right.
to go do it on everybody else's dime. You can take time off. You can worry about your mental health on your own. You don't have to worry about telling, other people telling you like, "Oh, you got okay, it's over. You can have a week off," or "You got to come back," or "We need," So I really like watching people, especially I think it's because I come from a place of not having much of anything, and it always makes me feel so good to see other people who have maybe grown like me or maybe worse situations or similar that actually have done something, and they're like really legitly went through all this stuff to get to where they're at, like
Amen.
without help. And it just that's
It's
kind of
motivating,
where I get a
inspiring.
lot of more motivation too. Yeah.
Well, we're right at the hour and a half mark. I feel like there has to be a part two to all this because I didn't even get to touch on half the questions. But
I told you that I knew it. I told you when there's stuff, there is
you wanted to
stuff.
get it done in a half hour earlier. I was like, there ain't
I
no
knew we
way.
weren't going to, but yeah, I know there's a lot of unpacking.
So
So
get with
yeah.
me again, and we'll follow up with a part two. Um, but I'm glad you made time for me to sit down with me and be vulnerable
Yeah.
with me and the world. And I appreciate you as a person, as an admin, as a friend. And I guess we'll leave it at that.
All right. Well, thank you for